My sister Serafina raised her glass at dinner, smiled sweetly, and said, "Maybe if you worked harder, you wouldn't still be, stuck." No whisper, no hesitation, just a clean slice, 3 years of sacrifice. My mother and father laughed softly, the kind of laugh that told me they agreed. I sat there, hands rough from the garage grease, still under my nails, realizing I'd worked 2 jobs so she could live the life she was mocking me for. That night, I didn't shout. I didn't cry. I walked in, grabbed her bills off the counter, and ripped them clean down the middle. For the first time in years, I felt free. Before I tell you what happened after, tell me, have you ever been used by someone you loved? And when it finally broke you, what did you do? People like to say family means unconditional love. But in my house, love always came with a receipt. I've been working 2 jobs since I was 23, days at the garage, nights at a gas station off Burnside. Most mornings I smell like oil and burnt coffee before the sun's even up. I used to tell myself it was temporary, that the exhaustion meant something. Every hour I worked was supposed to buy my sister a future. Serafina was the bright one, the one everyone bragged about. When she got into college, the whole family celebrated like she'd cured cancer. Mother called me that night crying happy tears. "We're so proud," she said. "Eleanor, you'll help her, won't you?" It wasn't a question, and it never was. At first, it felt good. I paid for her first semester's tuition, her textbooks, her rent. She sent a thank you text, "You're the best, sis." I reread that message so many times, it almost became proof that I mattered. But gratitude fades fast when entitlement grows. Soon, she stopped asking. She just sent bills. Tuition's due. My card got declined. The electric's late again. Every message started to sound like a command. I'd open my banking app, move the money, and tell myself she'd pay me back after graduation. But deep down, I knew she wouldn't. While I skipped meals to keep her lights on, Serafina filled her feed with rooftop dinners and designer bags. The caption, "Hard work pays off." The first time I saw that caption, I laughed out loud, the kind of laugh that hurts your throat. I showed Miguel, a coworker at the garage, one of her posts. "She doesn't appreciate you," he said, wiping sweat off his neck. "You're breaking your back for someone who's breaking your spirit." I told him he didn't understand. "She's my sister." He looked at me for a long moment, then said quietly, "Exactly." That night, I got home around midnight, dropped my boots by the door, and opened the envelope with her latest rent notice. The amount circled in red was higher than my monthly paycheck. My stomach twisted. I thought about how many oil changes it took to pay for her weekend brunches. I told myself I'd say something, set boundaries. But the next day came and I didn't. Instead, I wired the money again, because that's what good sisters do, right? We hold the line until it breaks us. But something in me was starting to splinter. Every shift felt heavier, every dollar smaller. I could feel a storm building, quiet but steady, under my skin. And the thing about storms is, they always find their moment to break. It started small, the kind of moments you could almost excuse if you wanted to. Serafina called one night, her voice sugar-sweet but clipped. "Hey, the landlord raised rent again. Can you cover it till next month?" I was in the garage, halfway under a pickup, my phone wedged between my shoulder and cheek. "Didn't I just pay last week?" She sighed like I was inconveniencing her. "Yeah, but this is different. I'll pay you back. Promise." She never did. That's how it always went. The emergencies never stopped. They just changed names, textbooks, new laptop, car insurance, a little extra for groceries. I wanted to believe she was struggling, but each like came dressed in designer clothes on her Instagram feed. Every post felt like a slap: cocktails on rooftop bars, weekend getaways. The caption: manifesting abundance. I didn't confront her. Not yet. I was raised to keep peace, not start fires. But the peace was starting to choke me. Miguel noticed first. You look dead tired, he said during lunch break, handing me a bottle of water. Just long hours, I said. He tilted his head. You still sending money to your sister? I didn't answer. He didn't need me to. Some people only love you as long as you're useful, he shrugged. That line stuck in my head for days. Then one Sunday, I called home. Mother answered, cheerful as ever. Serafina says you've been a bit short with her lately. Short, I repeated. I've been paying her rent, Mother. Mother's tone sharpened. You know she's in college. You should be proud she's doing so well. She needs you. The guilt rolled over me like a wave. Somehow, even after everything, I still wanted her approval. But something cracked the night Serafina called about her study abroad plans. Paris, she said, like the word alone justified the price tag. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. You'll handle the payments, right? I froze. Serafina, I'm barely keeping up as it is. Oh, come on. It's not like you have other expenses. You don't even travel. That one hit harder than she knew. My silence stretched. She laughed nervously. Don't be so serious. You're the practical one. You always figure it out. When the call ended, I sat there staring at my grease-stained hands. The same hands that had paved her way through every dream she'd ever had. And suddenly, I hated them. Not because they were dirty, but because they built a life she used to look down on. I didn't know it yet, but that conversation was the beginning of the end. The night of the family dinner, I almost didn't go. Miguel told me not to. You already know how it's going to be, he said, tossing me a rag to wipe the oil off my hands. He was right. But guilt wins over instinct. It always does. When I walked into my parents' house, it smelled like rosemary chicken and something expensive, like perfume that didn't belong to anyone who'd earned it. Serafina was home for the weekend, glowing with that newfound confidence people get when they've never had to worry about a bill. She hugged me like it was a performance, tight enough for everyone to see, but hollow where it counted. Dinner started harmless. My father asked about work. I kept it short. Mother asked if I'd been saving up for a house yet. I said, trying. Serafina rolled her eyes. You've been saying that for years. Then she turned to her phone, showing my parents photos of her trip with friends. Next stop, Paris, she said, like she was announcing her own coronation. Mother clapped her hands. Our little traveler. You'll help her, won't you, Eleanor? The words landed like a command, not a request. I swallowed hard. Maybe it's time Serafina got a job. That's when she looked right at me and smiled. The kind of smile that cuts without drawing blood. Maybe if you worked harder, you wouldn't still be, stuck. The table went silent. Forks froze midair. My father shifted uncomfortably. Mother stared at her plate. Nobody spoke. I stared at my sister, really seeing her for the first time, not as the girl I'd raised and protected, but as the woman who'd built her self-worth on my exhaustion. I forced a laugh, but it cracked halfway out. You're right, Serafina, I said quietly. I am stuck. But not for much longer. I finished my drink, stood, and placed my napkin neatly on the table. "Dinner's on me tonight," I said. "It's the last thing I'll ever pay for." Mother gasped softly. Serafina frowned, confused. I didn't explain. On the drive home, I kept replaying that moment, every sound, every look. The silence had said everything, their comfort mattered more than my dignity. When I walked into my apartment, the weight finally hit me. Years of double shifts, sleepless nights, and quiet resentment, all pressing down at once. My kitchen counter was buried under her unopened envelopes, rent, tuition, utilities, the proof of my servitude. I picked them up one by one, tore them clean down the middle, and let the pieces fall to the floor. The sound was sharp. Final. Freeing. For the first time in years, I didn't feel guilty. I just felt done. 3 days passed before the first call came. I was at the garage, elbow deep in an old Chevy's engine, when my phone buzzed in my back pocket. Serafina. I let it ring. Then came the texts. First polite, then panicked. "Serafina, hey, I think the rent didn't go through." "Serafina, did you forget to transfer it?" "Serafina, Eleanor, this isn't funny." By the time I finished my shift, there were 12 missed calls. I didn't answer a single one. That evening, I sat on my couch, feet sore, the city lights leaking through the blinds. My phone lit up again. I finally picked up, not because I owed her anything, but because I wanted to hear her voice when she realized the truth. Finally, she snapped. "Why didn't you pay the rent?" "Because it's not my rent," I said simply. "What?" "You can't just, Eleanor, I'll get kicked out." I leaned back, staring at the ceiling. "Then you'd better learn how to pack." She gasped like I'd hit her. "You're being cruel." "No," I said calmly. "I'm being done." The line went dead. The next morning, Mother called. Her tone was icy. "What's going on with you and your sister?" "Nothing," I said. "That's the point." "She's panicking." "Eleanor, she says you've abandoned her." "I haven't abandoned her, Mother. I've stopped funding her." "You're being heartless." "She's family." "Family doesn't mean indentured servitude." Mother went silent. I could hear Father in the background muttering. We always knew she'd turn selfish. I hung up before the words could land. By the end of the week, Serafina's desperation had turned theatrical. She showed up at my apartment door without warning. Mascara streaked, hair undone, clutching her phone like a weapon. "You can't just cut me off," she said the second I opened the door. I just did. "You don't understand. I have bills, classes, a lease." I folded my arms. "You have responsibilities. That's new for you." Her lip trembled. "I can't move back home, Eleanor. Mother and Father can't afford it. That's not my problem anymore." Her voice cracked. "You're supposed to help family." "I did," I said quietly. "For years. You just never noticed." For a long second, we stood there, neither of us moving. I could see her pride fighting with panic. Then, like a switch, her eyes hardened. "You think you're better than me?" she hissed. "You'll regret this." "Maybe," I said, closing the door, "but at least I'll sleep tonight." That night, the messages started again, but not to me. Serafina had gone public, her social feed filled with vague posts. Sometimes the people closest to you turn out to be the coldest. Betrayal hits hardest when it's family. Mutual friends reached out. Some asked what happened. Others sent screenshots of her new GoFundMe link, captioned, "Blindsided by betrayal, trying to get back on my feet." I laughed so hard I nearly cried. But the laughter faded when my Aunt Isabel called. "Eleanor, what's all this online about you cutting Serafina off?" "Everyone's talking." I sighed. "Let them. I've got nothing to hide." Isabel hesitated. "You know, people are starting to see through her little sob story. Just hold your ground." I did. For weeks, I stayed quiet. Let her narrative run wild. Let them all wonder. Then Mother called again, this time crying. "She's losing everything, Eleanor. Please, can't you help her one last time?" "No," I said simply. "I've done my part. She's your sister." "And I'm her victim," I replied. "That's family, too, isn't it?" The silence on the line was deafening. A few days later, Serafina's landlord called me directly. Apparently, she had listed me as her emergency payer. "She's behind on rent again," he said. "I assume you'll handle it." "No," I said, smiling faintly. "I assume she will." That night, I got one last text from Serafina, "You'll regret this. You've ruined my life." I typed back, "No, Serafina. I just stopped financing it." And then I blocked her. I thought that was the end, but entitlement doesn't die quietly. 2 weeks later, Mother called again, frantic. "You have to talk to her," she said. "She's gone too far." What happened? She maxed out a credit card in our name. We didn't even know she had it. I sat there staring at the wall, half in disbelief, half in grim amusement. "How much?" "Enough to ruin our credit," Mother whispered. "We can't pay it." For a second, I almost felt sorry for them. Almost. "You told me I was heartless?" I said. "Now you see what happens when you keep feeding someone who only takes. Please, Eleanor, help us fix this." "No," I said again. "You raised her. You can clean up her mess." When the call ended, I stood by the window, watching the streetlights flicker against the rain. It wasn't satisfaction I felt. It was peace. The kind that comes after a storm finally breaks. But peace never lasts long in a family built on guilt. That weekend, Mother hosted a small gathering. I hadn't planned to go, but Aunt Isabel called and said, "Maybe it's time you tell your side." So I went. The minute I walked in, the room fell quiet. Serafina was there. Pale, eyes ringed in red. She avoided my gaze. Mother started. "Eleanor. Maybe we can talk calmly." "No," I said, stepping forward. "Let's not pretend this is calm." I looked at Serafina. "You want to tell them why you can't afford your lifestyle anymore?" She glared at me, silent. So I told them myself. I laid it all out. Every transfer, every rent payment, every tuition deposit. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. I just spoke. "Every luxury dinner you saw on her feed," I said. "Every trip, every new bag, those weren't her rewards. They were my overtime." Father opened his mouth, then shut it again. Mother's hands trembled. Serafina's lips quivered, caught between rage and shame. Finally, she shouted, "You're lying." I reached into my purse, pulled out a stack of folded papers, copies of payments, bills, receipts, and dropped them on the table. Then, silence, just the sound of paper rustling under her shaking hands. When she looked up, her face was drained of color. "You ruined me," she whispered. "No, Serafina," I said softly. "You did that yourself." I turned to leave, but before I reached the door, I looked back one last time. "You all taught her she could take without giving," I said. "Don't act surprised that she finally took too much." Then I walked out. Outside, the air was cold, clean, almost electric. For the first time in years, I didn't feel small. I wasn't the loser anymore. I was the lesson. A month passed before I heard from anyone again. Word got around fast. Serafina had been evicted. She'd moved back into my parents' house, dragging her suitcases and shame through the same front door she used to brag about never needing again. Mother stopped posting family photos. Father avoided my calls. The silence told me everything. Miguel asked one night while we were closing up the shop, "You ever think about talking to them again?" I shook my head. I already did. They just didn't listen. I went home, sat by the window, and looked at my hands, still rough, still stained, but steady now. For the first time, they were working for me. Serafina could twist stories. Mother could guilt trip. Father could ignore. But none of that mattered anymore. The weight I'd carried for years was finally gone. I didn't win a fight. I just walked away from one I should have never been in. I used to believe family meant sacrifice. Now I know it means responsibility, especially to yourself. Some people will call you selfish the moment you stop letting them drain you. Let them. Peace is louder than their guilt. I spent years mistaking sacrifice for love, thinking that bleeding for others proved my worth. It didn't. Setting boundaries did. My sister still blames me for her downfall. My parents still whisper that I changed. Maybe I did, because this time, I chose myself. If you've ever been the one holding everything together, while they took you for granted, I see you. Tell me, what was the moment you finally let go? And if this story hit home, stay a while. There's more to tell.